This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Fox News' Trey Yingst was reporting yesterday that Iranian state media claimed the regime needs $24 billion released for any deal to be made with the United States. And the response from the Trump administration was, that's not going to happen. Quote, any financial relief will come if they uphold their end of the bargain. Well, there is no bargain. And it doesn't seem likely that there's going to be one, not one that America can trust. Let's get right to it. For more on the state of play, pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, president at Project Sentinel and London Center for Policy Research, author of Operation Dark Heart, Spycraft and Special Ops on the Front Lines of Afghanistan and the Path to Victory. Colonel Shaffer, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Always great to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how do you think Trump is playing this at this point?
I think there's three things that we should focus on. First, on the world, not on Iran. He's trying to essentially change the global energy is distributed. And I don't mean pulling it out of the ground or nuclear or wind or solar or otherwise. He just basically wants to have influence by our production here in the United States, how we have influence over our allies, or can basically control certain geographic parts of the world to make sure that we can determine where oil and energy goes when we determine it. I think that's why we started with Venezuela. We're now dealing with Iran, and he's trying to break the back of, as my friend Blaine Holt, General Holt always says, the City of London, trying to break the hold that Lloyd's of London, the World Economic Forum, and others have had for probably close to 100 years, where they've been able to kind of control world events by controlling energy and things like that. So I think that's why you have to look past Iran. Secondly, regarding the Abraham Accords and things like that, that's part of the challenge and plan to kind of change the way things are done. Destroying OPEC, getting rid of OPEC, which has been kind of a tool that's foreign nations have used against us. So I think he's trying to break that up by creating conditions where we change the alliances and create the conditions that are favorable to us. And last, the whole issue of what will Iran agree to or not, I don't think they have many choices except to agree to what we're basically asking them to do. No nuclear weapons, give up funding terror proxies, and I'm one of those who have actually, been in combat against the Iranians during the, you mentioned that Operation Dark Heart. We were actually being attacked by insurgents funded by Iran. Mm-hmm. So, we've been at war and with them, whether we acknowledge it or not, and I think we need to end it. So those are the three things I see as important. It's like we have to do something, and these other things he's doing have larger long-term effects that he's trying to literally change the way the world functions for generations to come.
Well, I mean, that may be the case, but the question is the execution. And on Monday, right? Military struck Iranian boats that were attempting to lay mines in the Strait. Yeah. And then Iran fired on U.S. planes in reply, leading to the U.S. to hit Iranian missile launch sites. On Tuesday, a commercial tanker was hit by an explosion in the Gulf of Oman, where Iran has attacked before. Right. So, I mean, I know this is being characterized as piracy, but if it's just piracy, or if we have a handle on what their ability to disrupt commercial traffic is, then why shouldn't we just deal with this straight away with the force that is required?
So I refer you back to Pete Hegseth's testimony last week when he was asked the very question by Congress. And his answer was, well, we have options. So while I have not spoken to the secretary about his answer, the way I interpreted that was, yeah, we're holding back. We're not doing as much as we could because we really want other nations, especially the Europeans, to take note and understand that you need to be acting in your own interests. And remember, the other thing he's doing right now is pulling stuff out of NATO. So the whole construct is one that you kind of have to look past. And I have no doubt that if directed, Pete Hegseth and the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Air Force and the Army, we have some stuff there too, could open it up and keep it open. As a matter of fact, we would probably, if we resume military operations, we'll probably seize Karg Island. We'll take out another layer of leadership, and we'll probably see the Arab coalitions, the Abraham Accords, the military elements of the Abraham Accords show up on the battlefield with us. So that's why I think we've not, we're doing these little things. I think President Trump called it a love tap. So I that's why we're not all that anxious to reopen it.
Well, and why would that be?
As I just said, we're trying to put pressure on the allies to recognize that they need to start playing a role as well.
Yeah, but I mean, look, do you think he's being too deferential to the Gulf states?
No, I do. Oh, I do.
And also,
yeah, you would agree on that. Yes.
It was too deferential to the Gulf states, and also maybe too personal with respect to Macron and Starmer. I mean, what does France and the UK really have to contribute? I mean, they have something. Right, no. but we're going to have to do it. So I mean, waiting for these prodigal sons to return, these NATO prodigals. I mean, don't you want this over? You have Iran, or you had them on their heels 4 weeks ago, and then you stopped, and now these machinations that don't seem to be going anywhere. And you also have to keep in mind, as I'm sure he is, the domestic politics of this too. He's impatient. People are impatient too, for a lot of reasons, economic and political.
So I don't disagree with you, but I'm not the guy in charge. So
I get it.
The current price of crude is down to $78 a barrel. And I know Trump is, to your point, watching that very closely, because the whole idea here is to drop the price down so that, ultimately, by the time we get to midterms, the price is going to be so low, it kind of makes up for the high prices now. And secondly, on that very term, I was talking to Mercedes Schlepp and Matt Schlepp of CPAC, and the base is upset. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, they always pulse the base. And Mercedes, and I don't think she minded me saying this, we were talking about the very thing you and I are talking about. She would agree with what you and I are talking about. It's like, nobody likes this delay. As a matter of fact, I went on the record a week ago when everybody said, "Oh, he's gonna start going back to war." It's like, no, he's going to give him another week, and he did. Mm-hmm. And I'm to the point where I hope he doesn't give him another week. I think it's time to say, they're just not going to come to the table with anything we find palatable. And go back to seizing. I would seize two categories of Iranian possession. I would seize all their ships, sell all their oil. We did it in Venezuela. We do it with them, and take Karg Island. And then physically, once you do that, open the straits and just say, we're just going to take over and do this. We could do that. Now, why he's not doing that, I think it's to your point. He's deferring to the Arab allies right now, and maybe he's giving them a bit too much deference.
Do you think it has anything to do with, this is obviously always on a president's mind, but is he worried that there will be additional casualties and potentially significant if we have to do things the hard way with the Iranians? And so he's just resistant to take that risk at this point if he doesn't have to?
I know he's resistant because I know him, and I know Pete Hegseth, and I know he's resistant to that, but I don't think that's what's driving the decision. I think it has to do with what he believes to be the necessary timing for everything to happen and to give the Iranians one last chance. Plus, the other thing we've talked about, I've talked about a lot, is regime change. I'm not convinced that we should leave a regime which has basically been hostile to us. They just yesterday reiterated, hey, we're going to keep saying death to America, and we mean it. It's like, okay, well, I guess you didn't learn your lesson. So this indicates to me that, we need to look at how we can actually facilitate the people of Iran, the Persians, to rise up. So I don't believe President Trump's given up on that, and I think there's some things going on in the background that we're trying to prompt that. But the one thing we can't do, we can't treat this like Afghanistan or Iraq. We can't go in there, as Colin Powell once said, you break it, you own it. We don't want to own it, but we do want to be able to influence the oil, much like we're doing with Venezuela.
Right. But at the same time, I mean, the ceasefire. I mean, calling this a ceasefire is sort of like calling the war a preemptive de-escalatory retaliation. I mean, it's since April, since the Lebanon ceasefire, Hezbollah's sent 1,000 rockets into Israel and another 1,000 drones. And because that ceasefire was something that was imposed on Israel essentially by Trump, he sort of demanded it because he wanted the ceasefire, he wanted negotiations. Now you're letting an Iranian proxy have the run of the place while you're seemingly dithering with a group of Iranians you can't trust. And frankly, mediators that you can't trust, the Pakistanis. So, I'm having a hard time getting the logic behind the approach at this stage, I guess is my point.
Well, I don't know what Marco Rubio's doing. I think he's doing what he believes is best, and I know that the Pakistanis have their own self-interest, which they do want this resolved. So I think they're acting as much as an honest broker because of their own self-interest. With that said, I do know for a fact from talking to folks, we have forces still leaning forward in countries I can't talk about where we've got elements literally ready to go in a moment's notice. So we've not stood down. We've got resources, assets, and capabilities literally ready to strike. I think we've had time now to reassess target sets of where we would hit, what we would hit, in what order. And I think we've probably got a pretty good shot of just seizing territory and the Strait itself if this thing continues. Now, I just don't think he's going to let it go much past the end of the month. I think by next week we're going to be talking about a sincere return to military operations and just seizing things. Because to your point, I don't think we can trust him at this point.
And the relationship he has with Xi and the things that were said at the summit. Yeah. And in particular, that Xi, told Trump, hey, if I can help open the Strait, I'm happy to pitch in. I mean,
well,
sort of
the oil, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm really motivated.
But I mean, is there something we could actually get the Chi-Coms to do to aid in the process in their own self-interest, like as you just described? Yeah,
two things. Stop providing military support to Iran. I mean,
that would be one. Sure.
Yeah, that we know the intelligence was provided to drive a lot of their strikes on our bases. So that's number one. Number two, there has to be a restructuring of how the Chinese interact with them because they were funding a lot of their economy through buying their oil. And right now we're trying to strangle it off. So I'd like to believe that whatever agreement the Chinese made behind the scenes, it includes changing those two factors. I don't know, but I think that's what they're going to. And then obviously if they stop paying Iran, that's going to get their attention.
I mean, is there any reason to believe that Trump is, again, we don't know, and I recognize the president and has information that only the president and very few people have. So, I mean, you got to give latitude. I get that, but you can still ask questions. And I wonder. Oh yeah. I mean, is there any reason to believe that there is some sort of arrangement that Xi and Trump came to with respect to Iran, and that that takes some time to put into action, say?
Well, the military aspect, either they're sharing stuff or they're not, and then obviously the intelligence piece. I think we have a pretty good idea of where they're sharing stuff, and we could probably verify that. That's not going to be acknowledged. The big issue, obviously, is finding a way to resume oil shipments because that's what China really wants. And as Xi, while he was calm about it, right now, about 1/3 of their oil imports have stopped because of the war, and that's something that the Chinese cannot continue to have because they, and the part of this, I think President Trump wants the Chinese to start buying our oil. Just saying, but that's not going to happen for a while because we're already tapped out. I mean, we're at max plus right now because of trying to make up for the oil not coming out of Iran. So I think the best bet is that we go in, we seize things. The Chinese would like that because we can guarantee to the oil that they're not getting. And I think the Arab allies will go along with this eventually here, because I think that's why he's deferring to them. It's like, hey, I'm trying your way, but if it doesn't work, you got to come with me to go attack. And I think that's what's about to happen.
He is Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, president at Project Sentinel and London Center for Policy Research, author of Operation Dark Heart, Spycraft and Special Ops on the Front Lines of Afghanistan and the Path to Victory. Colonel Shaffer, thank you as always. Appreciate your insights.
Oh, no, thank you for the conversation.
Yep. And Colonel Shaffer joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It's almost time once again for the annual AM 560 Golf Outing, presented by